The head of the UN's atomic energy watchdog has returned to Zaporizhia, a day after saying a deal to protect Europe's largest nuclear power plant was close.
130 states vote for the International Court to clarify what countries must do to legally protect the environment from climate change. In his first state visit, Britain's new king begins a 3-day tour of Germany, where moving on from Brexit is top of the agenda.
The European Commission's Transport Department chief has resigned from his position over a scandal involving free flights from Qatar. A clash in Italy over same-sex couples and adoption makes its way to the EU in Brussels.
All roads in the fight for nuclear safety lead to Zaporizhia. The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency has again crossed the front lines in Ukraine to visit the largest nuclear power plant built on European soil. Its site has been damaged several times since war began and Russia occupied it.
I think it's important that we can continue our dialogue. I want to thank you for having facilitated the presence of our teams here since September.
Grossi says he is close to getting an agreement to protect the plant from a catastrophic nuclear accident in the war. The power plant's reactors are shut down, and the electricity required to operate the cooling systems that prevent reactor meltdown is being supplied through a functioning power line.
More than 130 UN member states have voted for the International Court of Justice to pronounce on the obligations incumbent on states to protect the climate for present and future generations. It means the world's highest court will now clarify what countries must do legally to defend the environment from climate harm. But the resolution is non-binding, meaning that there's no need for any state to abide by it if it doesn't want to.
Ladies and gentlemen, for some countries, climate threats are a death sentence. Indeed, it is the initiative of those countries, joined by so many others, along with the efforts of young people all over the world, that brings us together. And together, you are making history.
Last week, UN climate experts warned that global warming will increase by 1.5 degrees by 2030 to 2035. The 2015 Paris Agreement, which is legally binding, set the long-term goal to keep warming to 2 degrees at the most by the end of this century.
Pope Francis will stay in hospital for several days, according to the Vatican. The Pope is in for treatment of a pulmonary infection after experiencing difficulty breathing in recent days. Vatican officials say the pontiff does not have COVID-19, but requires several days of therapy. It's still not clear how long the 86-year-old Pope would remain at the Gemelli University Hospital, where he underwent surgery back in 2021.
Britain's King Charles and his wife Camilla, who is known as the Queen Consort, have begun their first royal visit abroad in Germany. They were met in Berlin by President Frank-Walter Steinmeier and his wife Elke Budenbender at the historic Brandenburg Gate. They were then given a 21-gun salute and a fly-past by 2 fighter jets. Britain's royal family has historic links with Germany. Queen Victoria's mother was German, and the family had the German surname of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha until it became unpopular during the First World War. It was then changed to the much more British-sounding name Windsor.
Heute, auf den Tag genau, 6 Jahre nachdem Großbritannien den Austritt aus der Europäischen Union begann, schlagen wir ein neues Kapitel auf.
President Steinmeier is hosting the royal couple at Bellevue Palace, where there's to be a state banquet with 130 guests on Wednesday evening. Around 2,000 trade unionists marched past the Cabinet Office in Prague on Wednesday in protest at a proposed rise in the retirement age. The government wants to raise the age from 65 to 68, saying it must rein in spending as there's a huge hole in its budget.
a nedovedu si představit v 68 letech, abych běhala po oddělení a pečovala o pacienty.
Lidi by měli odcházet do důchodu tak, aby si ten důchod užili. To znamená, že je důležitá ta hranice toho dožití a toho vlastně, kdy ten člověk vstupuje do toho důchodu.
Minimálně 2000 i víc.
Už to tady jednou bylo právě za pravicové koalice. Takže já věřím, že i tento protest, i reakce občanů, i ankety, které se k tomu dělají, budou jednoznačným důvodem, protože se žádný věk pro odchod do důchodu nezvýší. Já bych byl moc rád, aby se takové protesty neodehrávaly, abychom věci byli schopni řečit debatě. Jestli tomu tak nebude, tak ten problém bude ještě větší.
If the government succeeds, it would be set 4 years higher than France's retirement age, where there's been massive nationwide demonstrations.
The European Commission's Transport Department chief will resign from his post after it was revealed that he received free flights from Qatar. Heinrich Holleley was facing an internal investigation after the revelation showed he accepted free flights from the Qatari government, while his team was negotiating a major aviation deal with the Gulf state's own airline. Surprisingly, though, he'll continue working at the European Commission.
At his request, the college has decided to appoint Henrik Holleley, who is currently the Director General for Mobility and Transport, to the position of hors-classe advisor, as the position is called in the Director General for International Partnerships, and that this decision is effective as of the 1st of April.
The revelations came after the European Parliament's very own corruption scandal involving Qatar, in which the Gulf state allegedly paid large sums of cash to EU lawmakers in return for influence. There's been no evidence to suggest that the European Commission was involved in this scandal, but transparency NGOs have widely criticised Brussels' ethics rules as weak. Holleley's decision will come as a relief to the Commission, which was initially defending his choice to accept the free Qatar flights, since all his missions were within the rules. But surprisingly, it was Holleley himself that approved his own free flights. Some MEPs say that the Commission's response is unacceptable.
Is it enough of a consequence if he is just moving from one job to another, basically keeping his same salary? I don't think so. As far as I understand, there is still a disciplinary procedure ongoing. So that's up now to the Commission services to determine that. But I think it clearly shows we cannot have Director Generals that authorize their own exception of free flights or gifts or whatever. Independent oversight, and when the rules are broken, there need to be sanctions, not just a reshuffle where people move to another job with the same pay.
The EU's watchdog has already asked the Commission to provide details on business trips made by senior staff members since 2021 that were partly paid for by third parties. An internal Italian clash could soon become a European problem. Mayors of cities in Italy are being prevented from registering foreign birth certificates when presented by same-sex couples. The mayor of Milan, Beppe Sala, travelled to Brussels on Wednesday to ask for support in his fight for the rights of the LGBT community. On the same day, MEPs in the European Parliament discussed the topic that's starting to make its way into EU politics.
Me and some other Italian mayors are making this battle because we know this is the law. On the meantime, we have our fellow citizens who are asking us to make this legislation, to give the right to their child, to their children. And the reason for which I am here at the European Parliament is that the European Court of the Human Rights said very clear, first of all, come the rights of the children. The Italian legislation is not listening this lesson.
Italian law forbids the use of assisted reproductive technologies for same-sex couples, meaning children can't have two parents of the same sex. Many mayors have nonetheless been registering birth certificates that come from abroad. That's until the Italian Interior Minister ordered the law to be enforced. It's meant practical problems for some same-sex families. But it's just the correct application of the law for the far-right party of Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, the Brothers of Italy.
Non è possibile per la legislazione italiana trascrivere questo tipo di unioni e di conseguenza non è possibile riconoscere il secondo genitore a questi bambini perché è contrario all'ordinamento italiano. Non l'ha deciso Giorgia Meloni, non lo ha deciso il governo Meloni, lo ha deciso la Corte di Cassazione. Il Ministero degli Interni ha di conseguenza dato indicazione ai prefetti di adempiere a quella sentenza e questo è il quadro. Non c'è nessuna diminuzione dei diritti degli omosessuali, non c'è nessun attacco, tantomeno c'è un attacco ai bambini, perché i bambini hanno tutti gli stessi identici diritti. I bambini hanno sempre la possibilità di essere riconosciuti dal loro genitore biologico.
Same-sex couples still have the possibility to adopt if the child is fathered or mothered already from one person in that relationship. But according to the mayor of Milan, this requires a very lengthy and expensive process, because in Italy there isn't marriage equality between homosexual and heterosexual couples. The issue of not being recognised as a parent also affects non-biological partners in heterosexual couples, who've resorted to surrogacy abroad. Last December, the European Commission laid out plans for the recognition of parenthood between EU countries. But as things stand, its approval won't be easy given the different rules currently applied across member states.